Amazing. Thank you all so much. It's lovely to be here. My name is Kuljeet. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales for Flexera. I'm representing both Flexera and Silverleaf today. I have quite a wide remit of responsibility, quite blessed. I look after Europe, Middle East, Africa, and of course India. India being my favorite, of course. But this is my first visit to Mumbai. It's been a lovely trip so far. I didn't know what to expect when I got here. I thought I was going to get lovely sunshine, beautiful weather, but it looks like I brought my British weather with me. I've been with Flexera now for around 7.5 years, and I love what I do. I help organizations really achieve and gain maximum value from their investment in technology. And today what I'm going to talk about is the value of technology intelligence. And it's ever so important, more than ever now, that organizations, especially in this highly governed environment and industry that we work in, are able to really understand and get complete visibility of their technology stack within the banking, finance, and insurance industries. And I'll explain why. We've noticed 3 key reasons. The way technology is bought and is sold has changed dramatically over the last 30 years. But the way in which we manage technology within our organizations today has largely remained the same. And if we think back to the mid-1990s, all the way through to the mid-2000s, IT vendors, tech vendors like us, like our colleagues that were on stage earlier as well, were selling to IT. IT were the main consumers and buyers of technology stacks. There was control, there was visibility, there was governance to make sure we knew exactly what was within our environments. But from the mid-1990s all the way through to the 2000s, or the mid-2000s, what we saw was a shift. Tech vendors were now targeting lines of business leaders. Organizations were being empowered to choose and select what technology platforms they want to use in order to drive their businesses. And now if we think over the last 5 to 7 years, is it shifted again? And actually the main consumers of IT are the users themselves. They are being empowered and driven to look at what platforms they want to use to increase productivity within their environment. Secondly, we've seen organizations transform as well over the last 20, 30 years. We've seen the rise in hybrid work, not so much in some of the banking sectors, but we do see that around the financial insurance sectors. And we're also seeing business-led IT initiatives being encouraged. We all want to stay at the head of the curve in the industry that we work in. We all want to be market leading. We still want to be agile. We want to be able to offer new products and services to our consumers. And then finally, we've seen the explosion of cloud, more hybrid computing, more hybrid environments. We're seeing organizations move some of those workloads off to the cloud. We're seeing an increased sprawl of SaaS applications being consumed by organizations. And now also the increase of AI. How can we increase productivity and do more? So as I said, it's more important than ever before to make sure we get good management and a handle of what we have. And good tech data really sets companies up for success. Otherwise, they end up with something like this. They end up with a sprawl of data across their environment, different platforms, applications, on-premise, within their hybrid environment, some installed locally, SaaS consumption of different applications, and organizations still, across all of the markets that I look after, and I have the privilege to oversee, they still struggle to answer some very basic questions. What do I have? How much is it costing me? What are the risks within these environments? And are we truly getting value from our investment? Are we able to achieve a more normalized, centralized, and rationalized technology environment? One in which allows us to do more with the technology that we have. And what is this actually, what is the result, right? Without any of this, and without the visibility into these complex hybrid environments, we're unable to improve efficiencies. It's hindering our ability to grow. It's hindering our ability to bring new products to the market. It's hindering our ability to work more efficiently. Agility, higher risk. And we work in such a highly regulated environment where actually core visibility is so key and so important. And how much is this gap costing us? It's costing us a lot, right? So I've just got some stats there, which are from leading researchers, and actually backed up by some of the work that we do with our partner Silverleaf, who will be joining me on stage shortly as well. And when we speak to customers and we go into their environments, what we find is not only the visibility gap is there, but potentially with the service wraparounds that Silverleaf and the team provide, is up to 30% of savings. And cost saving is one thing, but it's what can you do with those savings? How can you not only just add to your bottom line, but how can you reach for higher goals, deliver more to your customers, deliver more to the industry that is growing here in India? So what Flexera does, and technology intelligence, what does it mean, right? It means getting intelligent insights into your core environments, across all of your environments. It's about bringing data that you have about your industry, about your environments in which your technology is deployed, applying a layer of intelligence on that, and I'll go a bit deeper into that shortly, and then providing you with proactive recommendations. How can you better license your software? What workloads can you move to the cloud? Bringing in the FinOps element as well. How much is it actually costing you? How can we rationalize our applications? I was recently with a customer and we found they actually had 5 to 6 different applications doing the same thing. They had applications that were bought in lots of different ways. It's really costing businesses and organizations, and we need to be ahead of the curve. So I know this is quite a busy slide here, but I wanted to just give you an overview of what that platform looks like. So what we do is we understand what hardware we have deployed across your estates. We understand the software that is on those devices, not just visibility of the software, but what software do you have? How is it being deployed? Is it in a virtualized environment? Is it standalone? Is it in your data centers? Who's using that software? How is it being metered? Is it actually being run? We take that, we look at purchasing information, we look at cloud bills, everything that gets pulled in, the organizational structure. So not just looking at key data metrics, but actually looking at and understanding the way your business operates. We then bring this into our platform. Flexera has made several acquisitions over the last 10 years, some of which have added really key value around security, around recognition, around rationalization, around end of life, end of support, which is really key with the RBI governance that is coming to place right now. So we bring that all in and allow organizations to manipulate that data, to understand insights about their environments, and actually see the recommendations that are given to them. How can you better contract your entitlements? How can you normalize your spend? How can you look at the vulnerabilities, the end of life, end of support, help you prioritize your activities? Because there's one thing just getting data and reports, but it's like, what do I do with it? And that is where we work, as I mentioned, with Silverleaf, who are here, and will join me shortly and talk a bit about how that operates. But also sustainability, we just heard about that in the last few presentations that we had. What are the carbon footprints of the laptops that you've got? How do you make sure when you're doing hardware refreshes, you are doing the right thing going forward in terms of those sustainability goals will come into play in India? I'm seeing it across Europe right now, where it's heavily being regulated and driven. But it's about us working together with you. the experts in your fields, enabling you, helping you achieve better, achieve more. So I'll summarize with this slide here. The technology intelligence platform is there to help you with cost analysis, cloud governance, risk analysis, compliance, and that data is there ready to be shared across your platform to different users and different systems. I'm going to be around for the rest of the day. We've got a stand outside, but before I get off stage, I do want to invite Mayank, MD of Silverleaf, to join me up on stage, who's going to talk about a particular case study, right? Bring this to life in terms of how we've helped organizations achieve more. So Mayank, please, if you will.
All right. Thanks, Kuljeet. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mayank Srivastav. I lead an organization called Silverleaf, based out of several locations. I think the most important part that we want to share with you is the following. When we talk about transformation, or we talk about innovation, everything is being defined or led, or we talk about AI, or we talk about Gen AI, whatever. Ultimately, at the base, it's a software. So it's all software defined. Whether software is on-premise or on cloud, it's open source or proprietary, it's ultimately software defining how we do business moving forward. Fair? Do we agree? When we talk about software, it is governed by a software license. And a license, the way to use a software, it's called a license. And the licensing policies are extremely complicated, and they keep on changing from time to time. So one of the reasons why we need to understand this a little bit more better is because unless we know how to manage software licensing, both in terms of their use rights, in terms of their cost, it'll become very, very difficult to be able to change moving forward. So technology on one side, if you look at it, is becoming a commodity. You can switch in and switch out very, very fast. And there's no dependency or lock-in to a particular application from a long-term perspective. Earlier, we used to see customers having contracts signed for a 5-year period or a 7-year period. Now we see customers changing technology every year because the amount of change that brings in the technology is quite fast. So with Flexera, we are able to do a few good things. One, being a Gartner leader and a company born out of software asset management, we are able to discover every point of software or every software application that's installed on every endpoint and server in your environment. So that's the visibility. Today, if I go and ask a CIO, how many applications are you running in your environment? Nobody can say, I know exactly 1,673 applications. They would not even have a clue. They would have a sense of it, but not the exact number. How many of them are actually being used and not outdated? How many of the applications have an end of life and end of support? How many of us can actually tell us real time? Do we have tools and technologies that can tell us that they are end of life and end of support, and they need to be either phased out or upgraded, and so on and so forth? A lot of us gave a lot of applications to be developed by third-party vendors. Third-party vendors, they develop applications and they use source code, which is typically open source. A lot of open source software or code or libraries has become paid now. iText is a classic example. Monotype fonts is another example. For all we are busy in our respective jobs, we don't know how the licensing policy changes at the back end by the vendor, and it puts us as a customer non-compliant. And we are supposed to be surprised and then pay for something that we are not aware of. So the idea is very, very simple. As we, on one side, we keep embracing new technology, new applications, but on the other side, we must control the cost associated with it and the compliance associated with it. And that's what we deliver real time. Having said that, let's take a few examples. One of the largest private insurance companies is Max Life Insurance, and it's a public case study now. Now, Max Life Insurance, like any other insurance companies, is measured on its success on a few parameters. One parameter is market share. So LIC of India has the highest market share in India. Fair? Max Life typically comes at number 2, followed by EGFC. It's publicly available. You can Google it. There's one more parameter on which insurance companies are measured on, and that's CSR. Anybody would like to take a guess what a CSR is? It's a claim to settlement ratio. Okay? CSR is a claim to settlement ratio. It's common. Max Life Insurance is number 1 in the country with the highest claim to settlement ratio of 99.47%. And that's again Google available in terms of public information. Having said that, we've been working with Flexera and the Max Life team for over 4.5 years. And like every insurance company or a BFSI company, there are regular audits being done. Sometimes RBI does audits, sometimes there are ISO audits, sometimes there are internal audits, and so on and so forth. When the auditors come in, they bring in a bunch of questions. It's a big Excel sheet they have. And then they rate the organization at the end of the audit on a scale of 0 to 5, based on how many processes, governance, policies, and the reasons of why certain applications are there being paid for. Why did you buy this license? Why did you buy so much of quantity? Under which contract? How are you using this? Why didn't you migrate? Are you aware of this? And so on and so forth. We've been able to not only set up Flexera as a platform about 5.5 years ago, but we've been able to deliver managed services on top of that platform to be able to give them real-time, ongoing compliance. And we are answerable to all their internal audits. Whatever questions they have, we are supposed to answer on behalf of Max Life as a managed SAM services and a compliance partner. The reason why we are able to do it so well is because we don't do any reselling of software, because we are not a partner to any of the brands. Whether it's a Microsoft or Oracle, SAP or an IBM, we don't sell any software. We're just trying to say, because of our independent nature, we want to ensure that we are on your side to be able to protect you from either being oversold on technology or oversold on pricing, and also be aware of all your compliance position proactively. All your data must remain with you only. It cannot be possible that a Big Four consulting company comes in, shows you an audit letter, runs a certain bunch of scripts, and they try data to take away some data. If Adobe or Autodesk or Citrix or VMware or SAP, they come in with an audit, they will definitely run certain scripts. The result of those scripts will be not only data pertaining to their software, it will be pertaining to all software. So our humble request is, we need to own compliance, we need to control cost, and we need to ensure that our spends are aligned to actual consumption, which is a very, very important point for us to know. Almost all softwares are now being forced by vendors to move to cloud on a subscription model. Am I right? That basically means that we need to pay as much as we consume. So that means we need to change the licensing metric from a per user model to something called as per consumption. Now the consumption can be defined based on what kind of software application it is. And there are vendors who are making these changes to become more flexible. So your licensing compliance position and your cost typically can change if the licensing metrics behind the scenes change as well, which is where this becomes important as an element of use from a control, governance, and visibility standpoint. So the idea of us being there is to be able to give you a flavor that Max Life as a customer was not only able to get a visibility into all their applications, rationalize the ones which they typically want to use moving forward, whitelist and blacklist them depending on what they are using, ensure their audit gets a rating, which is the best. So this year, they got a rating of 1 out of 5, which is the topmost rating at the end of the audit, because everything was in place. And therefore, it's important for us to know that if you have a need of looking at what you have, what you are paying for, and where you need to be compliant, then this could be a partnership that you can evaluate. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope the session was valuable. We look forward to catching up with you outside over the stall or anywhere. We are here throughout the day, and I think it's a break time. Thank you so much.